Welcome back. Earlier I spoke with Dave Rubin, the host of The Rubin Report, about big tech censorship of conservatives and what it means. Take a look. Dave Rubin, so great to see you. I've been wanting to get you on the show for years, literally. Here you are. I'm thrilled that you're with us. And especially this week, I mean, unfortunately, for the very worst reasons, is the perfect time to talk to you, because what we're seeing now with this censorship and the desire to muzzle alternative voices and silence people coming from the left, from the media, from everywhere you look, it's exactly what you write about in your book, Don't Burn This Book. It's what you talk about the whole time on the Rubin Report. Give us, first of all, your overall perspective on where we stand right now.
Yeah, well, first, Steve, it's good to be with you. You know, one of the reasons it's been so hard to coordinate is that I try not to be on big tech and doing media stuff on the weekend. So I'm glad to be joining you on this Sunday. Look, where are we at? I mean, this is really the stuff I've been warning about for years. If you took sort of a hysterical, authoritarian, leftist political machine, what was formerly a relatively centrist Democrat party, a liberal party of, say, JFK, that believed that there should be some government and some private enterprise and they should struggle back and forth, which is what most old school liberals used to believe. If you took that and then shifted it to today's Democrats, which believe the government should do everything, give everyone things for free, take from some, give to the other. If you couple that then with the big tech layer, giant corporations with corporate interests, tremendous amount of money, and an unimaginable power over the way that we can communicate with each other. A type of power, by the way, that the founders 250 years ago could have never imagined that there would be corporations that could have more power than the government. So you combine those two things and then you end up where we are. You end up in a situation where basically a political party can coordinate with a tech company to say that the President of the United States should not be on YouTube or Twitter or Facebook or even Spotify to listen to music, or Pinterest so that he can post pictures of apple pie or whatever you do on Pinterest.
I know, it's just so frightening, and you know, use the word authoritarianism. I've been using that as well. That's what it is. And some people say, well, that's overblown, and you can't make those comparisons. I mean, look, I remember when I was a kid, my family's from Hungary, and I grew up going there in the summers from where we lived in England, see my family under the communist regime. And I remember one of the biggest memories I have, actually, is like walking along the street as a kid with my cousins, and I was like mucking about, and I was saying stuff. I was like criticizing the government, the then prime minister or whatever it was of Hungary, just for a joke. I didn't really know what I was doing. They literally said to me on the street, "You can't do that. We'll get in trouble. You can't say that stuff." That's what we're moving towards, where you can't express your opinion. If you wear a MAGA hat, if you express support for President Trump, or now even question the election results, they want to silence you and shut you down.
Well, look, that's why what they've been doing for so long is so dangerous. And for years, I've been saying that the move would keep moving and it would keep getting faster. In other words, if you call half the country racists, and if you say that this man is a Nazi or he's Hitler, and half of the people that you are around in the United States are the worst thing in the world, well then, of course, if you come to believe that, then you'd be willing to do some pretty horrible things to them. So you might be willing to close all of their ability to communicate with each other. You might be willing to make sure that they are unable to get a job. You might be willing to make sure that they're put on a no-fly list, or whatever else, whatever unimaginably horrible thing is out there that history has shown us. You might be willing to do all that if you genuinely thought you were fighting Nazis. And that's why, for those of us that have been fighting this for so long, it's like, well, of course, here it is. This is not surprising to me. For a long time now, the left has been on a road to crazy town. They have been on a road to complete control. And every time that there has been a roadblock where they could have said, hey, you know what, maybe we're a little bit out of control here, and that's why Trump became president in the first time, because there was such a backlash against us. Maybe they could have reevaluated. They could have taken the car off this way or this way and gone down another road. But they always blast through those roadblocks. And that's why I'm not surprised. And man, do we have work to do to save this thing.
Right. Well, that's the final point quickly I wanted to raise with you. I mean, we're seeing it now extend beyond big tech. We had the AOC this week literally calling for state-run media, saying that there needs to be a government commission to rein in, as she put it, media that she didn't approve of. What do we do in the face of all this?
Well, you know what's ironic is Donald Trump was talking about fake news for a long time, right? But he didn't shut down any news organizations. He didn't stop, even when he would go after reporters, he didn't stop them from reporting. As a matter of fact, he got them an awful lot of clicks. What AOC is now saying is we need truth and reconciliation commissions. We need to study misinformation, and you shouldn't be allowed to lie. Well, we live in a post-truth world. So if I was to say that there are only two genders, am I telling the truth or am I lying? And then should I be allowed to say that on my YouTube channel or on Fox News? These people want control, and they're telling you they want control, and they're telling you that they're going to do it. And I'll just make one other point. You know, when Donald Trump, when he could tweet, every time he tweeted, there would be 100 blue check journalists telling him he's going to end up in jail and he's Hitler and all of these awful things. Try to imagine the reverse of that when Joe Biden takes over. If suddenly all the conservatives are saying those horrible things, you think Twitter is going to allow that? You think the government's going to allow that? I don't think so. And that's why what we have to do, truly, Steve, is we have to build new things. That's what I'm doing with Locals.com, but it's only one piece of a much bigger answer.
Well, that sounds really exciting. I'd love to have you back to talk about that specifically, because I think the practical response, as well as our intellectual and emotional response, is going to be so important. Dave, so great to see you. Thank you very much.